Hey, welcome back. So we have our delete working just fine. Very cool. But we should make sure that we don't delete the very last item, right? That doesn't... And here it actually says you must enter at least 4 learning objectives or outcomes that learners can expect to achieve and complete. Okay, pretty cool. So let's see how we can make sure that the very last one is not deleted. So first of all, we need to ask the user, are you sure you want to delete this? So in order to ask the question, we need a small pop-up. Now, instead of creating a pop-up from our HTML, what we can do is just use the confirm. So there's a function called confirm like this, and then you can put your questions and say, are you sure you want to delete? Delete this this item, yeah, question, exclamation point. I don't know if it gets a title here. Let's see, title, not sure at all, but the confirm does that. So let's see if it runs when we do this. So are you sure you want to confirm? So the title doesn't really work. So if I say okay, or whether I say cancel, it still deletes, right? Now what you should know is this function returns true or false depending on which button you clicked. If you clicked OK, it will return true. If not, it will return false. So we only care if you cancel it. So we'll put that not over there in the if statement like that, and then we'll tell it to return like so. Okay. So are you sure you want to delete the item? Let me remove this. I don't really need that. It doesn't do anything. So when somebody does not acknowledge the cancel, we return, meaning that we exit the function and we don't continue to this functionality here. So let's see. Refresh. Delete, cancel. So it doesn't work. Delete, cancel, delete. Okay, there it is. That's how it works. But now we also need to what can we do here? We need to count how many items are inside this. Now think about it. This thing is going, this div right here is going inside this other div. So this is where we are multiplying the divs from. So which means that current target, which is the div here, if we grab its parent, we are grabbing this item. And once we grab this item, we can count how many children it has. And then if there's only one, then we can refuse to delete. Okay, so what I will do now is go down here. So if the user accepts to delete, okay, but maybe what we can do is before we ask them this, we can check how many children are remaining. So e.current target is the very item we want to remove. So its parent is this one. So let's grab here and say, let's come here and say, if, okay, e.current target dot parent node, okay, dot children. Okay, so every item in JavaScript has a property called children. Okay, so if you want to get a sibling of an item, you do next sibling or previous sibling. If you want to get its parent, you say parent node. So you grab that item. This is the item dot parent node, which means we grab the parent of it, which is this one. And then once we grab this, we can check how many children it has. So every element has a dot children property there, which tells you exactly how many children it has. So if we say, for example, var limit or minimum, we can just call it minimum is equal to, let's say, 1. Okay, so if the children in this one, dot, because that children is actually an array. So we can just count the length of that array like that. We say dot length, okay, like that. So if you wanted, you can loop through the children, which is what we are going to do when we are trying to get the inputs from those, the data from those inputs. We'll use the children and then loop through it. But now we just want its length. So if this length is less than or equal to minimum, then we tell the user we cannot delete, like that, okay? And then we return, of course, we're not going to delete. And then we just have to give them an alert and say, let's see, we can say you need a minimum of, and then the minimum itself. Sorry, I like to mix, I end up mixing PHP sometimes, so it's plus instead of dot. Now, if you want, you don't like this, you can use the tilde key instead, so you don't have to exit the thing. You can use the $sign instead, which is the new thing, right? Let's try that. Let's use the tilde key instead, which is this backtick above your tab key. And then instead of moving out, when you want to put a variable, you put the $sign like this. Okay, so you need a minimum of this items. I don't know, whatever message you can put in here, that's entirely up to you. Item not deleted, like that. You need a minimum of 10 items. Okay, so there we go. Then we return, right? Let's see if that's gonna work. Let's refresh, and then let me try to delete. Item not deleted. Or instead of saying item not deleted, you can just say you can't delete this item. You need a minimum of, yeah, something like that. Or what we can do is we can hide that at a specific point, but this is much easier. Just click, you can't delete this item, you need a minimum, and then let's just add one more. Then we can delete one, right? Boom. See? And now we cannot. Very cool indeed. Then always, whenever you change your mind, you can just change this number and say the minimum is 4 items, which is exactly what we are telling the users, that you need at least 4 objectives. So if I now refresh, now I cannot delete this. Even though I add another one, I cannot delete any of them, right? So once I add, until we get to 4, even here still, we can't delete. Unless we add one more, then we can delete any of these guys. You see that? Now, it only makes sense that we should load 4 of these items in the beginning, because that's the minimum, right? So let's come back here for a second. And where are we loading these items from? So we have add new and then section, right? Interesting. Good. So what we can do instead is we can have this minimum number. Let's move it somewhere else, and let's call it somewhere more descriptive name, because minimum can be minimum anything. So this is where the names get a bit complex. Let's see here. Students learn so we'll give it a very long name, but that's fine, because it will help us when debugging in future. We'll know exactly what. Giving variables names that don't make sense is suicide, because when you come back to, and believe me, you come back to edit every project that you make, you have a hard time understanding what was going on. So don't be afraid to use long names, because in JavaScript, unfortunately, it's not like in PHP where we use PHP OOP. OOP makes this long naming much better because we can use classes instead. This is what we could have done here. But because we can't use OOP in JavaScript, so we are stuck with these very long names and stuff. But that's fine. So students learn minimum input. Minimum inputs, right? Okay, that's fine. It's quite long, but it's okay. We need it. So let me just put that there, and let's put that one there. Now the reason I've made it this long is because I want to declare it at the top there. Okay, so let's go here. Let's add new. I want to find where it is. So add new is right here where we run this function, right? Okay, so that's okay. So what I'm trying to do here is that there's this part which actually adds the student learn tab there, right? Not the tab, sorry. That adds these inputs. So I wanted to repeat the minimum number of times that we've added here. So which means it has to know what the minimum is at this point. So the way I had it here inside a function, because minimum was within this function, so it wasn't really doing justice because there's no way the other function will know what that value is. So the only way to do that is to declare it at the very top here. So there's quite a bit of code here. So let's go right to the top and let's put it there as a declaration. So students learn minimum inputs 4. So we can add minimum inputs for each and every section that we have here, and then we can use them later. So back to where we were on the add new, which is here. So if tab is equal to this tab, then let's add this. But instead of just adding this, we're going to loop the number of times. So I'm just going to say 4. We're going to run a for loop and put that value. Oopsie daisy. Interesting. So I'll call it students learning minimum inputs, like that. So that's a number instead of .length, because it's already an integer. Let's remove that. So we're just going to say for I blah blah blah. We just wanted to loop that number of times, right? Less than. So here it says less than, but it starts at 0, so it's going to add 4 items. And then let's remove this. We just want this to run 4 times, or whatever number of times that one is. So save that. Oh, where has it gone? Oops. What have I done? Okay, there we go. Alrighty then, so let's see if that actually works. Let me refresh the page and you see it's loaded the number of times that are here. So as a result, I can always change what the minimum is by just changing that number over here. So I'll just put 2 like this and then refresh, and then you see now it loads 2. But of course you have to change that manually, or you can just omit the whole information of saying you need a minimum of 4. They'll know by the time they try to delete and find that, oh, you can't actually delete these ones that are here, so that's the minimum requirement, etc, etc. So anyway, this is how we do that, but let's put it back at 4 because that's what we need. So refresh, and there we go. We have 4 items loaded. Pretty cool. Now I want the drag and drop here, of course. So let's see. Let's go to Bootstrap and look for the arrows that we need to display the drag and drop. Okay, so this one right here. Cool. Drag and drop. Do I actually need this at all? Anyway, it's arrows move. Let's see if we can add it there. So I'm going to go back to intended liners. Oh, this is not the place. It's down here where we have this thing. And then I want, this is one of the divs that, let's put it right at the end. So I'm just going to duplicate this. Okay. So these arrows move in here. So I'm just going to say bi and arrows move like this. Great. But I want the whole div to just be the moving thing. So let me just move it right there to have the ID. So it's student learn move up, but I'll just leave it with move. So we can move either up or down. We know that this is different from these guys here. Okay, so that is that. That is that. That is that. Now the thing is, it's got a column of 1. Now this is exceeding 12 because Bootstrap has a column system of 12. So we have 1 here, 1 there, and this one has 1 column. So that's 1, 2, 3. But then we have 10 here, so we make 13. So let's change that to 9 to leave space for the new one that we've added. So if I now refresh, this is what I get. So now I'm supposed to be able to drag and drop this, I guess. Now, of course, this is terrible design, so please do your own design and make it look as good as you want, because this is just for demonstrative purposes. What matters is the functionality, not the view. So we want to make this thing draggable, and actually it's easier than you think to make things draggable. You just add an attribute. So let's add an attribute to our div. Now, normally, if this was the div, I'll just write the text here and say draggable like that, and that's it. But because we don't have this text to type, we have this element here, so we just have to add it as an attribute. Now, I don't know, actually. Set attribute. I've never added an attribute that doesn't have an equal sign. So I'm not even sure how this is gonna work anyway. Let's try it anyway. Let's do that and put draggable. Let me see if that actually works. Nah, it doesn't seem to work. I think the attribute here, okay, we're going to call it draggable, and then because we can actually do it this way, draggable is equal to, and then empty like that. So instead what we'll do is we'll name the attribute draggable and give it an empty value. That way we follow this system here. So I'm just going to do that. So it will be draggable is equal to empty. As long as it's draggable in there, it's going to make the thing draggable. So let's refresh. So things are working, but if I now click and drag, let's see. Let me inspect this baby and see if there's any draggable in there. So the div is this one. Is it? It's supposed to be JS input. There it is. And then it does have draggable there. So true indeed. There is draggable there. But why isn't it draggable? Okay, maybe we need to say true. Okay. Let's try that. Ah, there we go. Now it's draggable. But the background of it is transparent, right? Let's see though. If I added background here in the styles and say background color, let's see how that will do. So let's say background color gray, or let's just put an off-white, slightly close to white, like that. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we have that, and if I drag, it's a little bit more visible, but not really. It isn't. Okay, but we can change the background color of it while we are dragging. That's not a problem. But at least you see it's actually being dragged around. Let me see if I add red as a background color, just something very visible like this. Okay, so it actually can do something to show that we are actually dragging. Okay, pretty cool. So we can do something like that. While dragging, we can change its background color if you want. Okay, cool. So from there, things are draggable now. Yeah, we can move this up and down like so. But it won't stick, obviously. We're going to add code to make that happen. But for now, this is good. Things are working. At least we have rules that are set, and we will start with the move up and down, and then we'll use the drag and drop a bit later. All right, so let's continue in the next video.